Hey everyone, Michael Pickens here, host of the Libertarian Leadership Academy weekday candidate spotlight. Today we have someone that I'm very excited about. He is the brother of Mark Feldman, but not just the brother of Mark Feldman, right? He's a dermatologist, he's a researcher, someone that is extremely passionate about liberty, about freedom, and about helping people get ahead in their lives. Steve Feldman, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure to be on with you.
Dude, I love the bow tie. I absolutely love the bow tie. And I checked out your website, and I'm going to put it up on the screen here later in the show, but I love it because you have the bow tie as your logo, responsibility, friendship, and liberty, which is a very interesting tagline, having that friendship in there, which I'd love for you to talk about. But before we get into that, and maybe, this will be a part of it, but I ask everyone the first time I have them on the podcast, ask them, why are you running?
Yeah, well, you know, I'm a nerd. I like chemistry, physics, and math, and that was my life going into college. But the school made me take a non-science class, so I took a class in economics of all things,
Okay.
and it turned out economics was the physics of human behavior. Incentives, and you could see how things work, in the economy that way. Um, and Science, being a scientist, it also teaches humility. Science doesn't provide truth. It's just a way of asking questions. And my experiences in medicine have led me to believe very strongly that when you look at people in different groups, they're often all just human beings. Shocking, I know, that all these different groups are really good people and caring. And so I would tell you, I don't have a unique reason for running. I think I'm running for the same reason that pretty much everybody else who's running is running, and that is to leave our children a better world, to make this place better for folks. There's just different perspectives on how we go about doing that.
Yeah, that's great. That's one reason why I'm doing what I'm doing right now is to leave the world a better place for my children. That's it. That's great. At the same time, I want to be left alone, selfish reasons. I want to have less of my money stolen. I want to have less of my friends and family and my neighbors' money stolen and their freedoms taken away. So that's a great reason why you're running.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I think all politicians will say they want to bring people together. And
Sure.
maybe the very next thing they say is, but the other side has sinister plans to destroy our country. They don't have sinister plans. People on the other side are good folks. And so while you and I feel very strongly that when we see a problem, maybe the first question that we should ask is, can we fix this problem by giving people more liberty? A typical example is high drug prices. Maybe we should give people the freedom back to buy their drugs from whatever country they want to buy them from. I mean,
Sure.
it seems like a no-brainer to do something like that. But too often we make out people on the other side of debates to be evil. Oh, they're not supporting this because they're in cahoots with the drug companies. No, they want to protect people, from bad drugs. Well, those protections have a lot of costs, and you end up with a lot of people suffering because of it. I think largely the best solution is more liberty, as you say. But the other thing driving me right now, besides trying to bring some civility to our politics, is having some fiscal responsibility in our government.
Seems like a lot of politicians nowadays don't know what those words mean.
Oh, fiscal responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I'm pretty sure all of the politicians want to leave our children a fiscally secure country. I'm absolutely convinced pretty much all of them do. One side says we need to boost the economy by spending more money. And the other side says we have to boost the economy by lowering taxes. I tell you, if you don't control spending, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that you're not addressing the underlying problem. You're either going to increase either way, you're increasing the debt that you're going to hand our children.
Absolutely. How can you balance the budget without decreasing spending? And then if you just reduce taxes and not decrease spending, what is that going to do? Increase the deficit?
Yeah. Or you could just print phony money and then you get the inflation. So either way, there are no free lunches in this world.
Sure.
I think one of the reasons I'm running as a libertarian is because I'm not on either of the two teams that thinks the other side is evil and can't work with the other side.
Sure.
I feel like I can work with all of them. Like a lot of Democrats, I think the government should stay out of people's bedrooms, and like a lot of Republicans, I think the government should largely stay out of people's wallets. It's the golden rule that I think basically all Americans believe in. We should treat others the way we'd want to be treated. Let people live their lives the way they want to, as long as they're not hurting anybody else. And then, as a libertarian, I just add to be a little skeptical, maybe more than a little bit skeptical, when someone says that a government bureaucrat should decide how we live our lives.
Sure. Absolutely. So it sounds like debt and spending is one of your top issues. Joe Hanoush, who has ran for office 4 times, he's asking, what are your campaign's top 3 issues?
Yeah, top 3 issues. 1, civility in our politics. 2, fiscal responsibility. Mm-hmm. And 3, being peaceful. I am absolutely convinced that the senators in North Carolina desperately want peace, at least as much as I do. But they think we can get there by killing the evil people on the other side of the planet. I believe in seeking peace peacefully. Some folks will think I'm naive, but again, my experience in medicine tells me every time somebody has told me bad things about folks in another group, when I went and talked to the people in the other group, they were good folks just like me who had reasons, maybe not reasons for the things they thought and believed. And even if I disagreed with their policies and approaches, I understood where they were coming from.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead. I was just going to add one of the best examples of this. Oh my God. American leaders would tell us that terrorists hate us for our freedom. But then there's this 60 Minutes clip of Madeleine Albright being interviewed by Leslie Stahl. Albright was Clinton's Secretary of State, and this is after the first Iraq War, where there's sanctions on the Iraqi economy, and the medical journal The Lancet reported that those sanctions killed 500,000 children. And Albright's being asked about this, and Leslie Stahl asks her, we've heard that 500,000 children have died. That's more children than killed in Hiroshima. And is the price worth it? And Madeleine Albright says, this is a hard choice, but we think the price is worth it. People on the other side don't hate us for our freedom. That's a ridiculous notion. They hate us because we're addicted to their oil. We support dictators in their countries. We put our troops in their countries. Look, the golden rule. Do we want anybody else's troops in our country? I don't think so. Why are we putting our troops there? The defense budget, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and the debt on the interest on the debt. That's where all the federal money is going. Something has to be done about those issues.
Yeah, absolutely. You brought up peace and how everyone wants peace, but some people think that they can get it by dropping drone strikes on other countries, right? I would think that we would actually get closer to peace if instead of dropping drones, we dropped books or MP3 players with audiobooks on there, on freedom, right? John Stuart Mill's On Liberty, right? And educated them so they could learn in their own country and bring about freedom in their own country. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I also would think that, you know, we could build our own infrastructure, strengthen our country economically, if instead of having our War Department and training soldiers just to kill, if we
Mhm.
taught them trades like carpentry and electricity and plumbing, and go out into the world and build schools and build hospitals and be supportive, and dropping bombs on people and destroying their infrastructure, I don't think makes them love us. I don't think it's going to bring us peace.
So
And
you're
it's,
talking, yeah,
yeah.
you're talking about going over there and killing them with kindness, right? Basically, teaching them how to build schools and how to farm and how to be self-sufficient and dig wells and do all the things, right, that bring about prosperity.
Yeah. And then they can buy our products too. I'm very Jewish. Oh, I'm very Jew. I grew up going to a Hebrew school that my grandfather helped to found. My father was the president of the Orthodox synagogue that my grandfather helped to build. I'm very, very Jewish, but I believe Jesus had some really good wisdom.
Yes, absolutely. Joe asks another question. What will be what will be the first bill you will submit if elected? Do you know? Yeah, that's kind of a surprise question. So
Oh, yeah. I'm a doctor. I take care of patients on a regular basis. And we've got some old drugs that are very expensive. On day one, I'd say give people back the ability to buy their drugs from other countries. Why are we
sure.
taking away the liberty of Americans to get drugs less expensively? I think now, here's the other thing about libertarianism. And it's kind of like Uncle Ben in Spider-Man. Remember when he says, with great power comes great responsibility? I believe the libertarian philosophy is not just liberty. It's with great liberty comes great responsibility.
Okay.
The government should give you the freedom to choose, but you need to choose responsibly, and not just for yourself, but, for your kids and for the community.
Sure. Yeah. Because if you take that freedom and you infringe on someone else's liberty, that's not a good use of it, and you're actually infringing on someone else. So that's actually opposite of liberty and freedom. So
But even for yourself, I don't do drugs. I
mhm.
never have. The closest was maybe in college being in the room with some people who were smoking, and I got maybe some secondhand vibes. But I don't think the government should restrict your freedom to do drugs. Now, I don't think you should do drugs, and you might not even be hurting somebody else directly if you did drugs. But for yourself, you need to have
Mhm.
some personal responsibility for things.
Yeah. And then, but when looking at the law, definitely no one should be punished for doing drugs. But, right, if someone hurts someone else to get drugs or steals from someone else to get drugs, then it should be an actual crime, correct?
Oh yeah, crime should be crime. Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, your personal activities that affect you, you're on your own. And that said, the drug war, I believe, is entirely well-meaning. People are there, prohibition was well-meaning. They really thought alcohol was hurting people, but then
Yeah.
they prohibited and made things a lot worse.
Yep.
My mom at one time worked for the National Institutes of Mental Health in DC. And, with this, and they had this anti-drug campaign stuff. And this was back in the 70s. So this is what, 50 years of drug war that has, incarcerated so many people, ruined their lives, created all kinds of violence, ruining other people's lives, created cartels that have ruined the lives of people in Mexico and Central America, forcing them pretty much to become illegal immigrants to the island. We're causing our own illegal immigration problems.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got a comment. Good luck, doctor. It's beyond realistic what you're saying. Take care of yourself.
Thank you.
So Joe Hanush asks, as a doctor, do you think medical decisions should be made by the government is okay, or medical decisions best left to families and their doctors?
Oh, that is a great, great question. And it brings up a couple beautiful issues. Why don't we take one that's not very controversial first?
Okay.
Abortion.
Hmm. Not controversial at
No,
all. At all. Go
you
for it.
know, we got people on one side saying they want to kill children, and we got people on the other side saying they want to control women's bodies.
Mhm.
I don't think either of those things are true. I think we have people on one side who don't want to kill children and don't want the government telling women what to do. And on the other side, we have people who don't want to kill children and don't want the government telling women what to do. But they prioritize those two things differently.
Mhm.
One side says protecting the life of the unborn child is more important than the woman controlling her body. And the other side says the woman controlling her body is paramount, and that supersedes the life that is in the mother's womb.
Mhm.
They're both good folks on both sides, but they can't agree. Now, as a libertarian, strongly believe the government should not be telling women you must carry this pregnancy. That's just absurd to me from a libertarian perspective. Libertarians, as you already mentioned, we believe you can't hurt other people, and if you think that fetus is a baby, a libertarian can't be for murder. The government can't allow these babies to be murdered. So I do not have the answer to this. Okay, I admit I do not have. There is no. I can assure you, there is nobody who has the right answer. Now, people on both sides are going to say, "You're wrong, Steve. I have the right answer." No, they're both good people. They both should have the freedom to try to
Mhm.
peacefully convince each other of what to do. And I think a reasonable compromise is, look, at least for now, the federal government should not be paying for abortions. I think that's reasonable. Some states, if they want to allow abortion at some point, and draw the line somewhere, I think maybe state by state regulation may be the best we can do. But uh, there's another issue, uh, transgender. At the Libertarian Convention, I met people who strongly felt the government needs to stop doctors from mutilating, children. And I'm like, well, yeah, you got a point there. On the other hand, I don't know that the government bureaucrat knows better for this family who is, dealing with a really complex, difficult issue. But I know we don't have bad people on either side of this debate. The people who create the greatest conflict are really the nicest, most caring people of them all, the ones who want to protect the right of this family to make a decision on their own, and the people who don't want children to be mutilated.
Yeah.
And we need to, again, the primary plank that I have is civility. We need to ratchet down the vitriol, recognize we're all coming from a good place, and talk with each other. We may
Yeah.
not agree, but we should at least talk peacefully.
Absolutely. Well said. Joe Hanush says, well said, Steve. Here's another question from Joe. Are you in favor of repealing unconstitutional parts of the Patriot Act?
Well, that's an interesting question, because if it's unconstitutional, it doesn't matter whether we repeal it or not. It's unconstitutional. So, yeah, I believe in supporting the Constitution. You can pass an unconstitutional law, but it's unconstitutional. It shouldn't take effect. The court should throw it out. But yeah, I certainly believe that Congress deserves its constitutional powers, and the president should not be usurping them. I remember hearing Penn Jillette, like during the first Trump administration, going, Trump is stupid. I can't stand him, but he's killing fewer people than Obama did. And, people's lives are really important.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he would say that now, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think presidents should be unilaterally killing people in other countries, invading other countries. The power to declare war is in the hands of Congress, and that's where it should be. I don't know if that got to his question.
Yeah, with that said, right, it seems that there's a lot of Democrats that are against Trump's actions in Venezuela. There's a couple Republicans that are against it, Thomas Massey, Rand Paul. right? Very constitutional-minded Republicans. But it seems that if the Democrats, let's say that Harris was in office, and she captured Maduro like Trump did, and captured some tankers, it seems that there'd be a lot of Democrats that would have supported the action, whereas right now they are against it, and there'd be Republicans that are right now for it that would be against it. Do you see a lot of tribalism in politics? And how would you, as a congressman, be able to kind of get people to see the reality and maybe, open their eyes to more humanity, if you would?
Yeah. Talmudic wisdom, this is the Jewish Talmud, part
Okay.
of the Jewish Bible, says we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. This is deep and profound.
Mm-hmm.
Humans do not perceive absolute reality. We see things in context. When I'm teaching my students about this, I show them the vein on my wrist that's blue, and I ask them what makes it blue. And the medical students all say, well, it's the deoxygenated hemoglobin that's in the veins. And then I point out that, I give blood at the Red Cross every 2 months religiously. And every time they put a needle in my arm, red stuff comes out of my arm. And I look around the room at all the other good people giving blood, and red stuff's coming out of their arm. The vein is not blue. It can't be blue. It's a slightly bluer shade of pink than the surrounding skin. And so your brain says it's blue. The next time you have a chance, now that you know it's an optical illusion, now that you know the vein is not blue and it can't possibly be blue, look at your vein. It will still look blue because context controls what you're thinking. And humans, you got to marry that with the concept that humans evolved to be pack animals. We didn't survive on our own in a world of lions and tigers, right? We were pack animals. We worked together. We were part of a tribe. And so we have these tribal affiliations that are hardwired into our brains. And so I don't know if you remember the NCAA basketball tournament where Duke's star player, Christian Laettner, basically single-handedly beat the Kentucky Wildcats. And towards the end of the game, one of the Kentucky Wildcat players fell down on the ground, and Laettner took his foot and he stomped on the guy, and I'm pretty sure all us Duke fans were going, yeah, and all the Kentucky fans were going, throw that guy out, put him in jail. We see things from our perspective, and we can't control it. I'm Jewish, but I'm going to tell you something maybe surprising. I am firmly against Israel's slaughter of entire Palestinian families. I mean, it's just a shanda, we would say in Judaism. It's horrible. And people look at it, one side, when they see these children killed by Israel, they'll say, oh, that's collateral damage, but if they see an Israeli child killed, that's terrorism. And on the other hand, the Palestinian who might have killed that, Israeli child would go, you've been, with your American F-16s dropping bombs on our buildings, killing our children. You're the terrorists. I'm just retaliating. I'm just trying to get you to be peaceful and stop the violence that you're inflicting on us.
Sure.
And the objective reality is, I think objective libertarians realize it's dead children. That's the objective reality. And whether you call it terrorism or retaliation, a lot of that is just in your mind. And the vein is blue. You cannot control it. I'm going to lose a lot of support from pretty much everybody with this belief.
No, it's fine. It's totally understandable because there's a lot of people that really believe in collectivism, right? And now in this situation with Israel and Gaza, it's like they blame everyone who is Jewish for Israel's government's atrocities in Gaza. But Steve, you didn't vote to drone strike Gaza, correct?
Yeah, and I didn't put up a sign in front of my synagogue saying we support Israel while those bombs were dropping.
But there's no secret vote that you made, right? Every Jewish person doesn't secretly, vote, and you didn't make a decision, right? Yeah. They didn't consult with you beforehand.
Yeah, I have a lot of family in Israel. My wife has a lot of family in Israel. I've been there many times. I've also been to the West Bank, been in the homes of Christian and Muslim Palestinian families, the love that those parents have for their children is the same love I
Yeah.
saw in my relatives' families' homes in Israel. You know how you can reliably tell Israeli Jews from Palestinian Christians and Muslims?
How?
I don't know either. No, I mean they're basically all the same. They eat hummus. There's far more difference between the secular Jews and the secular people within the religions versus the Orthodox people within the religions than there is differences between the religions. Mm-hmm. They could all live together in peace. But when I was traveling there, one of my relatives took me on tours all over the country, farms that we Jews and industries, forests that I'd helped plant with dimes that I collected as a child. We made that land of empty swamps and deserts bloom. And it occurred to me, if this was all a land of empty deserts and swamps before, how did 700,000 Palestinian families, 700,000 Palestinian men, women, and children become refugees in that 1948 founding of Israel? And I was like, I'm missing something here. And being a scientist, I started pulling on the evidence, and I'm like, oh my God. The Israeli Jewish historians have documented that our Jewish forces had expelled entire villages of peaceful families from their homes. That's inconsistent with my Jewish morality. It's inconsistent with my American morality. It's inconsistent with the Golden Rule. And it's inconsistent with my libertarian ideals that you can do whatever you want as long as you're not hurting anybody else.
Sure. Yeah. Joe Hanush says, very reasonable positions by Steve. District 10 voters in North Carolina are lucky to have you on their ballot.
Oh, that's really kind of him. Okay, I'm going to lose him with this next one. I want to talk about guns. All right?
Okay, go ahead.
He's going to hate me for this. I am not a gun owner. I don't believe my home would be safer with a gun in it than it is without.
Okay.
At the same time, I don't believe that I or the federal government should be telling other people how to live their lives. Hey, as long as you're not hurting others, do what you want. You want to have guns in your house? I don't think it's my place or the government's place to say you can't. That say you can't. The government should stay out of it. Now, I think background checks at gun sales seem to be reasonable. I think gun owners that I've talked to have told me, it's probably a good idea if people with severe mental illness and a history of violent criminal behavior don't have guns, and aren't carrying it around with them all the time. So on the one hand, we've got people saying on each side saying they don't care about children, the people who want to take away the guns, say we want to take away the guns because we want children to be safe. The gun owners, they're like, we want to put guns in the schools to keep the children safe. Everyone wants the children to be safe, claiming that one side or the other doesn't care about children's lives is dehumanizing. It's counterproductive. It contributes to this culture of hostility that we have in America. I personally believe we need civility. We need to realize the other side is not evil. And if we could reduce that sense of hostility and improve our economy, I think we would do far more to reduce violence in America than either by giving people more guns or taking them away. And Joe, I really appreciate that last comment you made.
Yeah, Joe said, well, no one is perfect. And this goes back to Larry Sharp's 70-30 rule, 30-70 rule, where if you agree with me 70% of the time, join me on my campaign. And then a lot of libertarians will argue with other libertarians that they're not pure enough or they're not pragmatic enough, right? And I'm like, yes, you could be as pure as you want or pragmatic as you want, as long as we reduce the size and scope of intrusive government. Let's stop hurting people, stop taking their stuff, right? Move the dial, because that's what we need to do. The dial is going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I agree. You're absolutely right. And I understand the position of people who are purists, who want to get rid of government entirely, who want to get rid of the Fed, who think that that's the best solution and that we should, start there with our principles and not water them down in any way. I think that people are good, we should gradually make things better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're sounding a lot like your brother Mark, and if those watching remember, he had that libertarian rap when he was running for president, that libertarian, and he had a big tent philosophy when he was running. He was super popular, and I wish he was here today, rest in peace. But you are picking up that mantle, it seems, from what he was doing when he ran and what you're doing now. So, very inspirational.
I'm glad you see it that way. And I think I don't know how much of a purist he was. If he was, I really, I was not involved in libertarian politics back in those days. I think I was a Republican
Okay.
until the Republicans nominated Trump, and I was like, yeah, I don't think so. This is something's not right here. And then I took the little quiz, where do you fall on the political map? And I fell squarely in the libertarian side.
Awesome.
Fiscal responsibility, let people live their lives the way they want. I think the vast majority of Americans probably are in that position.
Absolutely. And it's candidates like you who are going to go out there and get them to understand what it means to be a libertarian and get them to even open their eyes to it. Because there was a time I had no idea. I was a Republican. I thought bombing the Middle East was a good idea, right? Turning the sand neon because my dad listened to conservative radio. That's what I knew. That's what I understood. But it's candidates like you that go out there and like all the other, there's going to be hundreds of libertarian candidates talking about these issues, and there has been since 19 what 53 or whatever, or, sorry, 1971 when the party was founded, that have been doing this. So I really appreciate you stepping up, and we're actually 2 minutes past our time limit, so I want to give you some time. Do you have anything else you'd like to share? Website, how to get involved, all that good stuff?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate our shared commitment to making the world better, and you do it through this program, and that's great. If people want to learn more about my campaign, my positions, you just go to stevefeldmanforcongress.com. You can reach me directly if you want to share thoughts or ideas. 336-577-1164 is my cell. My email is steve@stevefeldmanforcongress.com. If you disagree with me and want to tell me so, feel free to call or email me. I learned in medicine some of the times the best feedback is the negative feedback because it's the most helpful. But if if you're thinking about supporting my campaign, that's great. But even if that's not your thing, I hope you'll share these messages. We need civility. We need fiscal responsibility. We need peace, and understand that libertarianism is not something cold. It's something warm. We all want to make the world better for others. Libertarians believe the best way to do that is to give people more choice.
Absolutely, Steve. Thank you so much. And for those watching the replay, take down his phone number and text him thank you for running. Right? Libertarian candidates don't hear that enough. It is a huge honor to go out and represent the principles of liberty in the public square, and we just don't hear it enough. So thank you so much for running. Have a great rest of your evening.